Will Smith is back in Bel-Air, but it's not the Will Smith we remember. Peacock's gritty, dramatic reboot of Bel-Air heads up our 6 new shows this week on TV, news, and reviews. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got 6 new shows for you, including that new Bel-Air reboot on Peacock. We've also got Inventing Anna, which is very popular over on Netflix. It's been number 1 for a couple of weeks now. Suspicion over on Apple TV+. The Real Dirty Dancing, which is over on Fox. And as well, a couple of animated shows, one very much for adults called Fairview, and one for the kiddos and part of the Angry Birds franchise. But before we dive into the reviews, of course, we're going to talk about the news. And before we even do that, I want to welcome you to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. Each week, we do TV news and reviews, talk about the hot news in TV for the week, and then also review the latest TV programs, and of course streaming programs as well. It's all under the umbrella of TV, but these days it's good to clarify, I suppose. But let's talk about first the renewals and cancellations. We usually head up our TV news with that, and we've got a few that I'm pretty excited about. So Harlem is renewed for season 2 on Amazon Prime. I am a fan of this show. In December when I reviewed it, I gave it a B+. Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 95% for the first season. So that will be coming back. Fargo renewed for season 5. I mean, I don't think this was really in question, but it takes so long for these guys to do a season that sometimes if we don't specifically hear like, yes, this has been renewed, it's sort of uncertain. But it will be returning for the first time since 2019. But each of the seasons takes more than a year to start after the previous one ended. The very first season was in 2014, and they've only done 4 of them so far. And it's now 8 years later. So, yeah, so this will be the first one. Assuming it will air later in this year, that'll be about 3 years since the previous season. The God's Honest Truth, which is a late-night show on Comedy Central. This has been renewed for season 2. The Charlemagne the God sort of topical talk show, sketch comedy show. I did not know this existed. It's been on the air a couple of months, I guess, now. But, you know, I try to... I have a couple of different sources that I sort of look through every single new show airing, but neither of them had this program, so I'm honestly kind of unfamiliar with it. But obviously Comedy Central happy with their results, so they're bringing Charlemagne back for season 2 of that. And then this will be very exciting for some. I don't care. I watched about 2 episodes of this show when it first aired years and years ago, but The Blacklist is still on and doing very well for NBC. They have renewed it for now a 10th season. It remains a solid performer in any time slot they take it to. And with 7 days of delayed viewing, it routinely gets over 9 million eyeballs a week on the show. So, well, really 9 million people, so I guess 18 million eyeballs, right? But that will be returning. James Spader's still the lead of that. And I understand that the current season, they fast-forwarded the storyline 2 years. I don't know exactly what is going on. Like I said, I watched about 3 episodes of this 9 years ago when it first aired. But I guess, you know, that's what they're doing with the latest season. So if you're a fan of that, that will be coming back for season 10. All right, a couple of shows ending. They will get 2 new seasons each, though, but they are officially going to be putting the pin in after that. Atlanta is going to end with season 4 this fall. Now, we talked about this last week, that Atlanta's new release date for season 3 is March 24th, but right after that, it was announced that not only are we doing season 3, but season 3 and 4 are both filmed already, and the show will end in the fall with season 4. So we do get 2 seasons of Atlanta this year, which is cool, but that final one will be the last. And then same with this program. I announced the premiere for the new season, and that's Stranger Things. So we talked last week. Season 4 starts on May 27th, and it's going to be in 2 different parts, almost twice the length of any other season, both in episode count and, more importantly, the length of each episode is going to be supersized. But season 5 then will be the final for that. They have not filmed any of that yet, but I assume that will probably air in 2023. But the creators said they are not really done with the world of Stranger Things. So we may expect some spin-off news in the not too distant future about Stranger Things. I know everyone loves that show. So very, very good news for you guys. I think it's fine. I only actually saw the first season. And it was very good. I guess at some point I'll have to catch up. But all right, so Paramount Plus, I have a lot of news specifically about this streamer because they had their big sort of upfront for the season last week. So they released a lot of news about upcoming programs. So there's another Yellowstone prequel now in the works. 1883, of course, very popular. They actually are going to be producing more episodes of 1883 on the way, but they have not officially said this is going to be a second season. It's still, I guess, technically part of the first season, which is weird because there was a big finale, and I don't exactly know what happened, but I believe tears were shed from the vague, Facebook posts I saw about the finale. But in lieu of an official second season, they're going to just produce a few more episodes of that for now. But then there's another Yellowstone prequel in the works, which is going to be 1932. So we're going to follow a new generation of the Dutton family, and that's going to be during the time of Western expansion, the Great Depression, and Prohibition. So could be interesting. I think that's a fascinating time in history. The Depression meets Prohibition. So I think this will be an exciting one for me. I'm not a huge fan of Westerns, although I did like the first episode or two of 1883. And then Taylor Sheridan, of course, is the mastermind behind those programs and many great movies too, Hell or High Water among them. But there are new Taylor Sheridan shows not in the Yellowstone universe coming to Paramount Plus as well. Billy Bob Thornton is going to head up a show called Landman, which is about Texas oil rigs. And then Zoe Saldana is going to top a show called Lioness, based on a real-life CIA program following a Marine recruited to befriend the daughter of a terrorist and bring the organization down from within. So a couple of big names attached to those projects as well. Halo, the video game adaptation, turned into a show. Season 2 is official now, ahead of the March 24th premiere of Season 1. So we haven't even really seen anything from this universe yet in terms of TV, but obviously they're behind the project enough to warrant a Season 2 already. We're also going to have more SpongeBob, Dora, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on Paramount Plus. There's going to be 4 new SpongeBob feature films. One of them is going to actually go to theaters, but the other 3 are going to premiere directly on Paramount Plus. Dora is having another animated show. They haven't produced, I think, Dora in years, but they're going to do another animated show. And then also a live-action version, which is going to sort of pick up the torch from the Dora movie that came out a few years ago. The Gold, I forget what it was called, Dora and the Lost City of Gold or something like that. But I would think that they're going to have a new actress portraying the titular character, because that movie was pre-COVID, so it must have been at least 2.5 to 3 years ago at this point. So the girl they got playing Dora is probably like 16 at this point. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they just have a bunch of animated movies in the pipeline for that. But all of that stuff premiering on Paramount Plus. The Challenge, if you were a fan of that show, so they're going to have a new challenge version on Paramount Plus, which is bringing together contestants from challenge shows all over the world. Because, of course, it started on, I guess, MTV. The original, okay, now I don't watch the show. My buddy Tim, I know, does. I don't know if he still does. But as far as I remember, the show morphed from what was originally MTV's Real World Road Rules Challenge. Real World contestants, and then they used to have a show called Road Rules, and I sort of forget what that was, but it was a competition-like show. They combined them, and the Real World members would be versing old Road Rules members. But then eventually they ran out of people, and so it morphed into The Challenge. But then that started a trend of challenge shows all over the world. So they're going to bring a new version of challenge with that. But then in addition to that, CBS is going to have its own challenge show this summer, and it's going to have all stars from different CBS reality shows. So you got Survivor, Amazing Race, and Big Brother. So they will be competing in the challenge. So a lot of stuff with that. And then speaking of Real World, they have renewed Real World Homecoming for a 3rd season. This one's going to take a look at the New Orleans year. All right, then still more on Paramount Plus. NCIS Sydney is coming in 2023, so they're spinning off that yet again, but this one won't be directly on CBS. It will be Paramount Plus exclusive, and then there's going to be a SEAL Team movie in the works as well with David Boreanaz and the cast of that show. Beavis and Butthead is no longer coming to Comedy Central for the reboot. This will be going directly now to Paramount Plus. So that's pretty interesting. Comedy Central was sort of going to be reviving all of these old Viacom animated shows, including a Daria spinoff, Beavis and Butthead. There's a few more in the pipeline. But now they've decided Beavis and Butthead will come right to Comedy Central. And then and they will, I think, have the Beavis and Butthead library now on Paramount Plus, if they don't already. I think they might. And then South Park library moves from HBO Max to Paramount Plus in 2025. I know we're talking now crazy. This is 3 years in the future, but it's only been on HBO Max, I think, for like a year and a half, and that was a 5-year contract. They paid $500 million for the rights. I remember talking about that when HBO Max was ready to launch. So, yeah, if you're a fan of South Park, you can check that out in a few years. But starting with season 27, which is, I think, either the current season or next year's season, those will start airing on Paramount Plus after they are on Comedy Central. So, all right, couple more things to talk about here. So in casting news, Fox's anthology called Accused taps Michael Chiklis for the first episode. It is based on a BBC premise and will center on a different character in each episode surrounding the same crime, I guess. It's going to open in a courtroom as a defendant is accused of this crime, and then it's going to be flashbacks filling in the gaps each week. Chiklis will headline the first episode as a brain surgeon with a seemingly perfect family and faces the limits of unconditional love when he realizes his teenage son may have created this violent attack at the school. And then Kerry Russell is going to star in and produce a new Netflix program called The Diplomat. This is going to be her first starring TV role since The Americans, which I'm currently in season 2. Great show. That ended in 2018. She's done, a few movies since then and a couple of, lighter roles. When I say lighter, I mean more of an ensemble. But this is the first show she's headlined since The Americans went off the air. And this is going to be a political thriller. She plays a career diplomat who, in the midst of an international crisis, lands in a high-profile job she is unsuited for, resulting in some massive implications for both her personal life and her political future. All right. And then I have a couple of odds and ends. We're getting a little long here for the news, so we'll just do a couple of these. BET Plus is going to host a Martin cast reunion special this summer, celebrating the 30th anniversary of the program. Martin Lawrence will be there alongside fellow cast members Tisha Campbell, Tashina Arnold, and Carl Anthony Payne. Other guests will be appearing on that as well. Now, this should prove interesting because much like the Fresh Prince reunion that HBO Max did, there was some tension between some of these cast members. Of course, on the Fresh Prince, it was, with Will Smith and the first Aunt Viv, which they kicked out. But she was a part of that reunion, and they sort of hashed some things out. With Martin, I know in interviews things have been patched up a bit, but that final season of Martin, Tisha Campbell would not appear for like the last half of the season in any scenes with Martin. She refused. There was a lot of, lawsuits going back and forth, sexual harassment charges. So, in interviews I've heard since then, they've sort of buried the hatchet, but I do think maybe they'll touch on that in the special because these specials love to sort of dive in deep. And actually, you know what? Since I mentioned the Fresh Prince and Aunt Viv, let's end the news there and go over to the reviews because the first one I have for you is this gritty, dramatic Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reboot on Peacock. It is just called Bel-Air, and it's based on this fan video. We talked about this in in TV news a long time ago. But if you don't remember the basis for this, so this dude Morgan Cooper made a fan video. You know how on YouTube they'll always have different fan versions of, oh, I'd love to see this, this kind of movie or this reboot or this High School Musical 4. Let's do that, and they put together some sort of treatment for it. And this caught the eye of Will Smith because it had some buzz around it, and he was like, you know what, this actually is a good idea. So he took a meeting with this guy, and they decided to sort of create this together along with the producers of the original So Andy Borowitz and Susan Borowitz are on board for this. A lot of the executive producers are the same as before: Benny Medina, Quincy Jones, and Will Smith himself is listed on the producer sheet. So this is, like I keep saying, a gritty reboot. It stars Jabari Banks as Will Smith. It's interesting that his last name is Banks, and Banks, of course, is the name of the family on the show. But he is a 16-year-old from West Philadelphia, born and raised. Playground was where he spent most of his days. We all know the song. And he is sent to live with his auntie and uncle in Bel-Air. But in this first episode, we actually see that first, the first 20 minutes or so of that first episode is the theme song played out. We see him getting in the fight in the basketball court. He pulls out a gun, and he's already, in some legal hot water with that, but he's working on, a scholarship for college. So anyway, we sort of see that theme song played out, and then eventually we see him moving to Bel-Air. However, we meet the family, and they're quite different from the Banks we might remember. Carlton, for example, is certainly not a nerd. He is, a tough guy in this one. Hillary, the sister, who was always sort of a fashion plate, and towards the end of the Fresh Prince series had her own TV show. Well, here, of course, she's an influencer. That stands to reason. Ashley seems aged up, but they do mention that she's like 11 or something in the first episode, and she looks way older. I know, kids now are, with their looks and stuff, look a lot older sometimes than they really are. So okay, fine. When you come from a family of money, I guess you can afford the makeup and the expensive clothes. That makes sense. And so the rest of the cast, these are all really unknown people, but even the butler, Jeffrey, is very different here. He was sort of, I don't know, high society in the old one, a bit straight-laced, and here he's, sort of really just part of the family. I know the old Jeffrey was too, but in, I think, a slightly different way. Anyway, that's sort of the story. I mean, if you've seen Fresh Prince, you know the deal from there. But because this is a dramatic retelling, there is no laugh track, of course. There's no studio audience. It is, part of this new crop of let's make everything tough, let's make everything hard. Personally, it didn't really work for me. I'm not sure, and I'm not a huge Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan. Casual, I would say. It was on Monday nights, which is when I had Boy Scouts, so I never watched it live. It was on in reruns, and I watched it here and there, but usually there was something on opposite it that I preferred. So I'd say when I watched it the most is when it was on Nick at Night, which was, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago maybe now. So I don't even think I've seen every episode. I've probably seen 50 to 70 episodes of the show. Casual fan, I would say. But even I, of course, know the basics of the premise and the characters, and it seems like they're trying too hard to make this too gritty and thereby sort of alienating all of the fans from the original series. So maybe if you are brand new to this, you've never heard the popular theme song, and you don't know much about the original show, maybe you'll find something to like here, but it still seems like it's trying too hard. I can understand what they're going for. I get it. And I'm not exactly sure if you want to make this gritty reboot, what you do to sort of improve upon it. I don't really have any suggestions because I can't think of any opportunities where this has actually worked. SNL did a very funny sketch a couple of weeks ago when they were doing just like Peacock's Bel-Air, Peacock's also bringing, another popular, African-American family into the new dramatic, and it's like Family Matters. It's the Urkel story, but it's like Urkel's, real tough. To me, it actually made me really, really long for the original series. I don't think there's a lot of really funny, broad comedies on right now for the whole family. I don't. Comedies are either, really adult or they're really kind of childish. Fresh Prince was sort of in this, list of shows that everybody in the family could watch and get a laugh out of. At that time, I'm trying to think of what else, because I didn't like Full House. Like those to me were too much for like babies. But like a show like Malcolm in the Middle, I know that came years and years later, but that is sort of what I'm talking about. We don't get a lot of those. And so having something like this gritty reboot, they're dropping the N-word all the time, and of course they're on Peacock, so they can say that, and they can say other words, and oh, we're going to be so inner city and street here, we can just say whatever we want. That's fine, but the show is a dime a dozen. You know, the charm of that original show, to be honest, was Will Smith and his interactions with the other characters, Alfonso Ribeiro, you know, especially as well. So I get that they're going for something different. For me, it didn't really work. It's not horrible, but I won't continue with it. I just don't think there's any space for it in this world. You know, like there's just too many other things on, too many other opportunities to watch shows, and it just didn't capture me. Maybe, like I said, if you know nothing about the Fresh Prince, you'll get something out of this. But again, these are a dime a dozen, these kind of, you know, hard shows, you know, trying to tackle the serious topics of the day. It wasn't working for me. So I leave Bel-Air with a C-. So up next, we're going to talk about Inventing Anna. This is on Netflix. It has been very popular. It's been in their top 2 or 3, really, ever since it's been out. I think it's still at number 1. But this is basically about the story of this gal, Anna Sorokin, who is, you know, the Anna in the title. And it's essentially based on a New York article, or New Yorker, called How Anna Delvey Tricked New York's Party People. And so really, she's Anna Delvey, but she also goes by Anna Sorokin. And she's played here by Julia Garner, who is all over Netflix already with Ozark. For a time last week, when Ozark Season 4 dropped, she had the top 2 shows on Netflix, which is very cool. And Anna Chlumsky plays the reporter Vivian Kent. And we see a few other people we might recognize as well. Laverne Cox, also no stranger to Netflix. Anthony Edwards is here as well. And Anders Holm from Workaholics as Vivian's husband. So this show is basically about how Anna sort of got away with everything, but more about the interaction between her and the reporter. How does the reporter, you know, sort of tear down those walls enough to get Anna to talk frankly with her about the you know, the crimes that she's been accused of. She's currently sitting in jail. This is an interesting one as well. It takes a little bit of time to sort of adjust your ears to this dialect and speech pattern of the Anna character. Julia Garner, by the way, I think is fantastic as an actress. She really is a chameleon. I don't even remember what I first saw her in, but it was before Ozark. And she plays somebody in Ozark who is, I think, different from anyone she's really ever played previous. And then this girl is completely, like, out of her mind. She talks in this really sort of cringy way. It's very, very difficult on the ear, but about halfway through the first episode, I was like, okay, actually, I'm really sort of getting into the way she talks. And it's like, now it's like soothing to my ear almost, because it's so unique. It's a great performance from her. And it's also a great performance from Chlumsky. I loved her on Veep. I know she goes back to the My Girl days. Never saw that movie, but I know she sort of, after that movie, went out of the spotlight for a while. But I loved her on Veep. I don't think she's necessarily reinventing the wheel with her performance, but the character is interesting enough. And I do like the interaction between these two women. I love now, really, I would say since the streaming age, we've gotten all of these really fantastic women-centric shows where, like, the 2 or 3 leading people are women. And it stands to reason with this one because it is a Shonda Rhimes program. She is, you know, all about the women programs. She's given us Scandal and Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder and all of that stuff. So, okay, makes sense. Now I get it. But the problems arise when you throw in some of the Shonda Rhimes-ness of it all. It's a little too slow-moving. Some of the characters are too over the top. We do see some Rhimes favorites here. There's a couple of people from Scandal that show up. And I think maybe one or two from How to Get Away with Murder as well. So we love to see the Shonda Rhimes alum. But this, to me, falls flat because of the pacing issues in a way that other recent, heavy-hitting crime dramas like, say, Dope Sick or something, really did not fall prey to. One of my other big complaints here is the Anders Holm character. We don't see him too much, but I've realized that I really dislike him as an actor. Every character is the same, and ever since he played the jerky husband to Anne Hathaway in The Intern, it seems like every time I see him, he's the same character. He never wavers. I don't think he's necessarily a jerky husband, but like he's an emotionless husband, certainly in this, and that took away from my enjoyment of it as well. But when Chlumsky and Garner are on the screen together, look out. Powerhouse, great acting here between the two of them. So I do have to give it a nice grade because of that. But again, definitely falls short because of the pacing issues. So I will leave Inventing Anna with a B. Suspicion is up next. This is on Apple TV Plus, and like many shows, this is based on another country's property. It's based on the Israeli series False Flag, and they're really hyping Uma Thurman up as sort of the lead here, but she's definitely not. She's in sort of all the promos for it, but she barely factors into the first 2 episodes here. Now her son is sort of at the helm of all this because he was kidnapped, and I guess as we get into later episodes, we'll find out more about, where she is in all of this, and she'll probably be doing the press conference circuit and stuff. But these first couple episodes that I watched are really more just about the interrogation of certain suspects. So 3 men and 2 women are fingered by the London police as having something to do with these kidnappings and the subsequent disappearance of this kid, Leonardo. And they, get in the room with the cops and they get questioned, and we see sort of how it led up to that. We see where it started for each of the people, and why they believe, or why, the London police believe that they had something to do with it. 2 episodes in, they're certainly leaning towards, to us, the audience, these guys didn't have anything to do with it, but who's to say as the show goes on? Like most of the shows in this vein, Mayor of Easttown, all of these sort of dramatic mystery shows, it's all about the ending. So I can grade these first 2 episodes, and I will, but if this thing has a flat ending at the end of, 8 episodes or something, then 6 episodes, I think, total, it's just not gonna be satisfying, but if it ends well, then yay, we give it, maybe a higher grade there. But I like the acting here. The only person really that I know that well, other than Uma Thurman, who again doesn't really appear that much, is Kunal Nair from Big Bang Theory, and he's playing a very different character here. And I feel for these characters. It seems like they're being falsely accused. I mean, I don't even want to guess, because if I'm right, you'll think I watched it and I'm spoiling it. But my guess would be that probably like one of them or maybe 2 of the 5 did have something to do with it, and the other 3 are sort of just, patsies or just mixed up in it or whatever. That's sort of my guess. But on the surface, it certainly doesn't seem that really any of them have to do with the kidnapping. But we'll find out about that as we go forward. But this is an interesting crime show. It's not based on any true crime story, which I don't mind the true crime stuff, but sometimes, I don't know, it just hits a little too close. I'm like, oh man, that could really happen. So I don't usually deep dive into the true crime stuff. There've certainly been good ones, but I like that this is sort of just based on nothing. It's based on an original story, and we take it from there. So, again, depends on the ending, really, but thus far, I do like what's on the screen. Good acting and interesting selection, too, with some of the shots that the directors are taking. A lot of, closed-circuit TV stuff, and just sort of the angles of, the interrogation room and stuff like that. So interesting to look at, if nothing else. So I'll leave Suspicion with a B+ for now. Up next, we'll go to The Real Dirty Dancing. This is on Fox, and actually, I believe it's wrapped up already because there were only 4 episodes. So really, I should say it's on Hulu at this point because that's where all the episodes are laying. But yeah, it looks like it wrapped up last week. So this is based on the movie Dirty Dancing, of course, and it's not just your regular dancing competition. This is taking pseudo-celebrities, people that maybe are not big names, but Howie Dorough of the Backstreet Boys and Lonnie Love from The Real and Corbin Bleu from High School Musical and a few other people, an NFL person, WWE person. So they are taking these 8 people, and the girls are going to be the Jennifer Grey character, the boys are going to be the Patrick Swayze character, and they are recreating not only scenes from the iconic movie, and they're, whittling it down until just one couple will be Baby and I don't remember the Patrick Swayze name, but they actually are shooting this show on the site of the original movie. So I think fans of this movie, which there are plenty out there, uber fans of this movie, are going to really love watching this show, sort of the way I enjoyed watching the Brady renovation show, where the real characters, or the real actors, I should say, that played the Brady kids, came out and helped HGTV recreate the Brady house. That, to me, was a lot of fun. I was a huge Brady Bunch fan. Dirty Dancing, I've only seen once. I get it. Baby in the corner, the whole thing. But to me, this is not something where I'm like salivating over, like, oh, there, there's the gazebo and there's, where they did that. And to me, it was nice seeing the celebrities get like excited about what they were seeing, but it didn't really speak to me personally. I do think it's kind of an interesting concept to have them not just sort of recreate some of the dance moves or whatever, but actually like recreating scenes from the movie. I'm wondering if at some point Fox is maybe going to, I feel like maybe did they do a Dirty Dancing live or something? I was going to say maybe the point of this at the end was to have the 2 leads star in sort of like a Fox made-for-TV movie version of Dirty Dancing, but who knows? Maybe it's just, for fun. But it was enjoyable enough, I guess, for the reality show of it all, but the celebrities aren't really famous enough for me to care. I don't really care about the movie enough, and I think that's going to be sort of the main demo. So, even though it's only 4 episodes, I still only watched the one. I'm like, all right, I get it. I don't really care enough who wins. So for that, I can't grade it too highly. So I will leave The Real Dirty Dancing with a C+. I think it's okay. And certainly if you're a fan, this might be for you. All right, now we will close with 2 animated shows. One is quite adult, and the other one is for the kiddos. Fairview is on Comedy Central. This is created by Stephen Colbert of The Late Show, who I usually like. And it is about this town called Fairview, and it is focusing on the, social and political aspects of this town, and they just are all hicks, and they love their Natty Light. And they have this horrible mayor, Kelly Sampson, who doesn't know what she's doing, and this and that and the other thing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and we won't take too long with this review. This show stinks. It's awful. First of all, it desperately is trying to be South Park. Now, it is on Comedy Central, so okay, but Comedy Central does a lot of adult animation, so that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Oh, except for the music that they use for the bumpers between scenes is basically a complete ripoff of that South Park music. So they really, really want you to identify with it there. And then visually, the backdrops look like it's exactly South Park. Now, the characters don't. However, they're even uglier and more annoying than I think any cartoon characters maybe I've ever seen. They look like, if you're an 80s kid like me, you will remember the Weebles. Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, right? And they had sort of that sort of circular bottom. That's what these characters are. They're basically Weebles. They don't have legs. So they walk so annoyingly. I could barely make it through one episode of this show. The jokes are not funny at all. it's one of these cases of, oh, we'll just have the cartoon characters that look like little kids' toys from the 80s say the F word a bunch of times, which I watched it on, I guess it was the Comedy Central app, because I don't have cable anymore, so I didn't watch it live on Comedy Central, but I have to imagine it's beeped when you watch it on Comedy Central. So I would imagine it's even less funny, I guess. But yeah, it's just over and over again with, foul language. Oh, I'm a bad mayor. Da, 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 da. First of all, there's 50 shows on the air right now with bad mayors, so that's not original. South Park even has one. This is just such a blatant, poor ripoff of South Park. It's. I don't use this term a lot, but this show is unwatchable. I mean, believe me when I say it was hard to make it through the 22 minutes of that first episode. Fairview certainly gets an F out of me. So next we go to the Angry Birds Summer Madness program. This is on Netflix. And we've had a couple of Angry Birds movies. I think we had a show already before this. And of course, much like a lot of the movie to TV adaptations of animated shows, the voice actors are very different here. None of the people that you would recognize. I don't know really any of these names, so I'm not going to even mention them. But they give us one of the bad premises out there of kids shows. They age the characters down and bring them to summer camp. We just did this with SpongeBob last year. I didn't like that either. You harken back to, again, I'm an 80s kid. You have, the Flintstone kids and Pup Named Scooby-Doo, and I can't even remember all of them. Tom and Jerry kids, and anybody really that was popular had a kid show. Tiny Toons was great, but that was different characters. That wasn't just the same characters aged down. I've never been a huge Angry Birds fan anyway, because they tried with the two movies, and the movies are like okay. I think I gave them a C and a C plus. Like they're all right, but you can't get a lot of character development out of them. They're very sort of one note, one joke. And at least the movies had some familiar voices to check out. Jason Sudeikis and Danny McBride, and I forget who else. Maybe Will Forte does a voice in one of them. I think the villain in the second one was Tiffany Haddish. Or maybe it was Leslie Jones. I forget. There were two animated movies out at the same time, and I think one was Tiffany Haddish was the villain, and one was was Leslie Jones. Either way, but that's how kind of interchangeable these Angry Birds movies are. And I think the TV show and aging them down makes it even worse. You're even more one note, because your one note is you're angry. Oh, but now you're a kid, so you're an angry kid. All right, cool. They do have different... it's like 2 episodes in one. So each episode is only about 12 minutes or something, like the SpongeBob camp show, and I guess regular SpongeBob too. A lot of those Nickelodeon shows. Netflix, though, doesn't always do that. A lot of times if it's a kid show, it's a full 25 minutes or something with one episode. Look, this isn't horrible, especially when compared to Fairview, which is, as I said, unwatchable. This is watchable. I just don't know if it's enjoyable. So for that, I leave Angry Birds Summer Madness with a D+. The de-aging is bad enough, but then the taking them to the summer camp, it's just so bad, so hackneyed. And I feel like we should be doing better by our animated shows lately. So that will do it for this week's news and reviews. Next week, we will be back with 6 new programs. More news to talk about, so join me, won't you? And thank you for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.